This is an audio test for Community Access Television Services, coming to you live from the Monroe County Courthouse, downtown beautiful Bloomington, Indiana.
She sure will, yeah. But hopefully she also takes the time to go slowly and get the old page is always so tempting to jump right back in.
Call to order the Monroe County Board of Commissioners meeting. It is Wednesday, April the 19th. I will note for the record that all three commissioners are present. And we'll start with our public statement. We, the Monroe County Board of Commissioners, renew our commitment to welcome and protect the rights of all people, regardless of age, race, color, creed, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, economic status, and national origin. And we affirm the right of every person to live peacefully and without fear. And we will fight and resist at every step discrimination and harmful policies, whatever their source. We also stand in support of our county public school systems, both RBB and MCCSC. And we'll now go to department updates. We'll start with Ms. Kelly from the Health Department.
Hello, I'm actually not Lori. She's attending the Local Health Department Managers Association meeting. It's only held once a quarter, so it's very important that she be there for that. So I'm Jamie Ford. I'm the administrative assistant for the Monroe County Health Department. Good morning. I do have several updates for you, though. The White House released an official statement stating that the national COVID-19 emergency declaration enacted in March of 2020 will be expiring on May 11th, 2023. COVID-19 vaccines and boosters will still be available for free while supplies last. However, once the federal supply runs out, only those covered under health insurance, both public and private, will have easy access. Those that are uninsured or underinsured may face barriers. Free at-home testing will depend on what health insurance you do have. Those under traditional Medicare will no longer receive free at-home tests. Those on Medicaid will have access to free at-home tests until November 2024. Those with private insurance will depend upon the insurance. As a reminder, the health department does still have free at-home COVID tests available for the public. You can walk in from 8 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday to receive free at-home tests. On April 18th, 2023, the FDA authorized changes to simplify the use of bivalent COVID vaccines. The monovalent Moderna and Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines are no longer authorized for use. The public health clinic does have bivalent vaccines available. You can call 812-353-3244 for an appointment. In response to the recent storms and tornadoes, the health department is still working with the Indiana Department of Health to provide vital record services and Tdap or tetanus vaccines to those affected by the recent tornadoes in the area. We are working to establish these services at the Steinsville School on April 26th during 1 to 6 p.m. as part of a multi-agency resource event, along with the Salvation Army and Red Cross. And then if I could share my screen for a second, we also wanted to show, let me see. We also wanted to show a recent update, if I can move this. My apologies, I've never actually done this before, so we're trying something out.
You're good, Ms. Ford.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so you can see the screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is our main health department webpage. And because since I've started working here, I've learned that there is always something to be aware of in terms of public health. So we were trying to make it easier for the public to see several different resources in one spot at the same time. So if you go to our main health department webpage and click on this public health information site, this will take you to a site that I built using our Esri ArcGIS technology that the county has access to. And if you scroll down, you'll see everything from COVID-19, we have MRSA, the Candida auris, which is the fungus that we've been tracking. The CDC also has information on it. All of this is in one spot that you can see. And then here, this is actually the Indiana dashboard. So you can see Monroe County statistics, you can see the state as a whole. Or if you also wanted to go to see the COVID wastewater surveillance, you can click on that and easily find that information there. So like I said, we were just trying to make it a little bit easier for people to find all of the information that they're looking for at once, instead of having to go try to find several different websites. So if you just scroll down here, we also have the new information from the FDA about the COVID vaccines. That's been linked here. Like I said, MRSA, and then this is also, this is an emergent threat that was just declared, I believe last week, about fentanyl mixed with xylazine. So yeah, we will be updating this, just trying to keep the public aware. And then as we get more information, whether it's about COVID or other emerging threats, we'll add that here. So, but like I said, you can find that linked to the health department website.
Very good.
Are there
Questions or comments? Oh, yeah, are you not finished? Okay, keep going.
any questions or anything?
Commissioner Jones.
No, that looks like a really useful change. I think the public will appreciate it.
So the FDA approved COVID bivalent booster shots for adults over 65 and a second round for adults over 65 and immunocompromised this week.
This literally just happened yesterday. So I'll be honest, I'm still learning about it. The information or the press release that the FDA released, it is linked on that one site that I just showed you. I do believe it lists something there. But there is a meeting that's taking place today. I believe the CDC is going to actually issue the clinical recommendations and stuff, but we won't know those until later today. So this is still very new information. And once we find the details and specifics of that, we'll be able to get that to you.
Great. So something for people to look for if they're
Yes.
in that group. So thank you.
Yes, of course. And you can always call the health department. We're willing to field questions as we're able to.
And the vaccines that you're going to be offering out in Steinsville, do people need to register for that, or where can they find more information? Is that also on the same website?
That's a great question. We can release more information with that. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if you have to register. I believe they are trying to focus more on the people that were affected by the tornadoes. Instead of just everybody just going out there. So as far as that specific effort, I'm not really sure, but we can find out more information and definitely release that either on our website or on our social media.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, thanks a lot. And I believe we also have a department update from Christine McAfee. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. It's kind of fun to be back in this building. I don't think
I
I've
have
been
you.
here forever.
I'm looking at the Zoom screen saying, where are you? Where are you?
I'm actually alive in person. It was a really nice day to get out and walk over, so I thought I'd take advantage of it. So hi, good morning. Just a really quick update with JDAI. There you go. We've had these conversations before that oftentimes people like to get together and make decisions that impact the lives of others without inviting those that are impacted to come and join in the conversation. So we're trying to change that with our JDAI work group. We are creating a youth probation advisory board. I use youth in air quotes because we're really looking for 18 to 25-year-olds that have had prior experience with our probation department as a juvenile in Monroe County. We'll likely extend it to others who have had probation experience around the state at some point, but we're really focusing on if you've had probation experience in Monroe County right now. We want that 18 to 25-year-old age group because we want their experience to have been relevant enough, that what they experienced is likely similar to what we're doing now. If people are interested in learning more about that, I would encourage them to contact me. My email address is cmcafee, MCAFEE @co.monroe.in.us. The flyer also has that information on there. And if you do the QR code, for those that are tech savvy and know how to do QR codes, which is probably that 18 to 25-year population, that will take you right to our probation website, which will give you more information and also the application to apply.
Excellent. What kind of time commitment can people expect?
We're hoping no more than maybe 1 or 2 hours a month. When we start out, it might be a little bit more. Initially, we're going to try and do everything virtually, just because, again, getting back in public spaces is still not super common. We might have to break out into smaller work groups. So I think if somebody could commit to 3 to 5 hours a month, that would be probably the extent of the longer extent of what they would be doing. We're going to work on things. We have been working to revise our conditions of probation. If you've ever seen our list of probation, it's about 18 things of you shall not, you cannot, and you never will. And we're really trying to make it more meaningful. We're also trying to come up with ways to tailor terms of probation so that not everybody gets everything, because it doesn't apply to everybody. We currently utilize an exit survey when you get released from probation services. We want to know, what would you like us to ask you? We came up with the questions, but we're interested in what is it that young people think that we should have asked? What information do they think would be helpful? And then now what do we do with it? So those are just a couple of ideas of things that we're looking at in the near future.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, this sounds very exciting. And good luck with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a really, it's a very common practice in many areas, but not so much in the justice system. So we're going to pilot this. We're going to give it a shot. Applications are due May 12th, and we're very, very excited to see the community response. I know we have a lot of people that are very involved and want to make changes for the positive in our system. So this is a great opportunity. Come see us. Let me know.
Definitely. Commissioner Thomas.
No, it's a fabulous idea to hear from folks who have experienced this and they can provide you with the best guidance. So great idea.
They're the people that will have the insights that can make a difference. So
Absolutely.
Good.
But you know, what we often talk about in our office is what we're doing isn't really working very well. So maybe we need to try and do it differently. And I think this is really different.
And I know from conferences I've attended for people that are experiencing substance use disorders, they say nothing about us without us. And
Yeah.
so it's the similar.
I've
same
kind of
philosophy.
stolen that and used it oftentimes. And, you know, and it makes so much sense in any of our personal lives. When people make decisions that impact us, it would be really nice to be included in that conversation, because sometimes what I think the solution is not the solution. And then when it doesn't work, oftentimes we sit around and go, well, why didn't it work? Well, because it wasn't going to. But let's figure out how to do it together.
Excellent.
Very good.
Thank you for coming over.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to show up in person. Take care.
Thanks. Is there any other department that has an update for us today? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda. Speakers can have up to 3 minutes, and please state your name and whether or not you are a resident of Monroe County. And I see we have Jim Shelton with us virtually. Good morning, Mr. Shelton.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Shelton with the Chamber. I am a Monroe County resident. This morning, it's that time of year again. I'm speaking on behalf of CASA's, the Court-Appointed Special Advocates, because our spring training will start in just about a month. It will run May 22nd through June 14th. It will be Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 8:30. Applications will be due just in a few weeks, May 5th. So I want people to know about this. Hopefully there are people out there who have been thinking about this, and we know they are, and this would be a good time. CASAs, as I'm sure you folks know, are volunteers who work with and advocate for children who are in the court system, not because of anything they did. I'm right now CASA for a month, well, 5-week-old infant, but what their parents have failed to do. They have either mostly neglected them or perhaps abused them. And so the court has stepped in, and Judge Harvey has reached out to the CASA office and asked for a volunteer to be assigned to the case. So you would be trained in for about 33 hours and learn what it is to be a CASA, how the laws work in Indiana, who all the different players are, from DCS family case managers to service providers, et cetera. And then your job's basically to be the eyes and ears of the court and the spokesperson for the child. Judge Galvin used to say, and I think Judge Harvey agrees, that there's no way they could conduct their courts without CASAs and their insights. So CASAs are neutral. They advocate. Their only responsibility is to advocate for the child. They don't have to worry about what's the cost of what services they need or how hard it is to get them or any of that. They just advocate for what's the child needs. So I invite the public to please think about this. It's a wonderful opportunity to contribute to the community. It's really very satisfying when you work with a child for a year, or children for a year or two, and see them get back into a permanent situation, either because their parents have been able to right their ship or because the court has decided the best option is for the child to be, or children to be, adopted. So please think about it. You can go to monroecountycasa.org, click on the volunteer link, find out a bunch of information. There's a frequently asked question page that will answer a lot of things. Or you can call 333-2272 and talk to the staff. When you are assigned a case and you work it with a CASA staff professional who backs you up, can go to hearings, et cetera, if you aren't able to make one, and then helps you with little weird things that may come up that you didn't learn about in training. So thank you for the opportunity to spread the word.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment this morning? We have Susan Hengel with us. Good morning, Ms. Hengel.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good morning. This is Susan Hingle. I'm with the Women's Commission. I'm a Monroe County resident. I just came to give you guys a little update with what we have been doing. First of all, I'd like to thank Commissioner Thomas for coming to our last meeting, which was wonderful. We have started having people come speak at our meetings to share with us what they've been doing in the community. Last month, we had Annie Aiken with the community as the community wellness coordinator with the Purdue Extension Office. This month, we moved our meetings to the third Thursday, so it's actually tomorrow. We're having Beth White with the Indiana Coalition to End Sexual Assault and Human Trafficking to come share with us what they've been doing in the community. This month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so it kind of thematic in a way, but I just wanted to let everybody know that that's the kind of things that we're planning on doing with the community, with information in the community. We are also working with Molly Turner King and Angie Purdy next week to get another year of Girls Coding Camp off the ground. So just a little update.
Fabulous. Sounds
Thank-
like you've re-energized the group.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anyone else that wishes to speak this morning? See none, let's go on to approval of the minutes from April 12th.
Move approval of the minutes, April 12th, 2023.
Second.
Any comments or revisions?
No.
I don't have any either, so call for a vote on approval of the minutes from April 12th, 2023. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next up, we have approval of the claims docket.
I move approval of the claims docket, accounts payable April 19th, 2023, and payroll April 21st, 2023.
Second.
And we have Mr. Cockrell to present information.
Yes,
today.
the accounts payable claims are a total of $3,410,420.17. I went through the packet right before. I'm filling in for the auditor's office. I went through, and I would just, the note that I would give is that includes the ARPA funding for the a New Hope project for the childcare. And so I thought that was something that I'd worked on and was pleased to see. The payroll docket includes $2,324,074.06.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
No, I don't.
I'm glad you mentioned the ARPA project. Thank you.
Yes, especially given the huge need for childcare in our community. Recent statistics suggest that only about half the families who would like to have childcare are able to find what they need here in the community. So I really am happy that we're able to support them. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, call for approval of the claims docket. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please. Oh, I will note for the record, sorry, that we have a treasurer's report from March of 2023. Now we'll go on to the next item.
All right. I move approval of resolution 2023-08, submission of rural transit grant for 2024.
Second.
And Ms. Purdy, are you the one who's presenting?
Actually, both of us, I was just forgot, if TSD could promote Chris Myers to panelist, but I can get us started.
Thank you.
So, This is something that we've been doing for quite some time with Area 10 Rural Transit. And this is the grant application for year 2024. The Monroe County Board of Commissioners are the applicant for these funds and have agreed by resolution, which is included in this packet, 2023-4, to subcontract with Area 10 Rural Transit to actually provide the service. The funds listed in the application have not been awarded, but are the amounts requested from federal and state funds. Rural Transit is requesting a minimum of $66,000 in local match funds from Monroe County government. And this request will be submitted to the County Council during the 2024 budget process by the Board of Commissioners. There is currently no capital requests for the year 2024.
Very well done, Angie. Thank you so much. The only thing I would add for people who don't know is that rural transit covers 4 counties. So it's the public transportation system that covers Monroe County, Owen, Putnam, and Lawrence as well. So the allocation that we have for the 2024 period for operating from FTA, which is through NDOT, is $893,351, and we're expecting probably no change in the state public mass transit funding, which is estimated at $311,595. In order to pull all that down, we have to put in a full budget as expected if we were to use all of the FTA NDOT funding, and that total grant when total operations would be for $1,865,546. So that includes all of the state and all of the federal money, but then of course the big chunk of local that's required in order to operate those funds. We usually do not have sufficient local match in order to operate at that level. And I did submit a spreadsheet that kind of gave you that picture so that you knew how that was all broken down. But we are hoping to secure the regular funding that we have at a minimum, and certainly would welcome any kind of increase in local match support from any of the 4 counties. I'm happy to take any questions.
I'll note for the record that that was Chris Myers talking. It shows up on our screen at the top, but not everyone may have access to that. Questions or comments?
No, I'm just glad that we can provide this service.
I'm really happy to support this. And since you're here on a different topic, if I might, I wonder if you could give us an update on the ARPA funded buses.
The ARPA funded buses are up and operational, and we have one fully on the road, actually, I think either today or tomorrow in Monroe County. So they're rolling, and we're very, very happy to have them.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes. How many of the buses were you actually able to purchase with those funds? Just to let the public know.
5, which is pretty amazing. So we were really happy to get 5 buses.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I call for a vote on approval of resolution 2023-08 and submission of rural transit grant for 2024. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move a approval of the Harold Fish Inc. HVAC system replacement proposal, fund name cumulative capital, fund number 1138, in the amount of $19,830.
Second.
And we have Mr. Kreider here to speak with us.
Good morning, Commissioners. Richard Kreider, Facilities and Fleet. Multiple HVAC units at the Curry Building require extensive repair and are no longer able to provide cooling. The age of the units paired with the scope of work required to repair them support replacement. This request is to approve the agreement with Harold Fish Incorporated in the amount of $19,830 to remove and replace HVAC equipment and systems 1, 10, and the records room. The equipment replacement includes System 1 condenser, System 10 condenser, air handler, and 10 kilowatt heat kit, records room condenser, air handler, and 10 kilowatt heat kit.
Very good. Questions or comments? Commissioner Jones,
No, I don't.
Commissioner Thomas.
I don't have any questions. I think it just highlights the ongoing work that has to be done in every county building all the time. And
All the time.
yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm just based on what I read, it appears to be an energy efficient unit. And that's important for all of us. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So this isn't related to this particular thing, but how are things progressing on the caulking on the windows in the Justice Building?
I met with the Jason Zare from City Glass actually yesterday. And we're exploring a different type of lift than what was originally proposed. I'm hoping that he can locate one that will impact traffic less. And he's going to try to get that information to me soon, and that will help me put together a better plan to send to the city as far as what needs to close so we can get that work
Thank you.
started.
Yes. Yes. I just wanted folks to know that there was a glitch, basically. And
Yeah.
but you're actively working on it.
Yeah. And I don't know that it's a glitch necessarily. I just think that I want to try to close a smaller area. Basically, I don't want to be out into the street.
Good. It's safer for everyone involved. Yes. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, call for a vote on the Harold Fish Inc. HVAC system replacement proposal. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Kreider. Next item.
I move approval of an agreement with Graber Post Buildings, Inc., service agreement, fund name, county general and non-reverting fund numbers, 1,011.78 and 11.79, not to exceed $30,500.
Second.
And is Ms. Whitmer with us?
She's not. Hey, everybody, this is John Robertson sitting in for Kelly today.
Morning.
Morning. So this service agreement was approved by our park board last month. It's with Graber Post Building. The project is to renovate the caretaker's house at Cars Farm Park. The project would include replacement of the metal roof, the wood siding, the wood soffit, and the gutters. I'm laughing at the description here, but in summary, the exterior of the building is starting to deteriorate. So this project is important to get done. I know our caretaker would very much approve it and be thankful. So the amount is not to exceed $30,500, as mentioned, would come out of our contractual lines. If there are any questions, happy to answer.
Commissioner Jones.
No questions. I'm just pleased that this is being done.
No questions. Thank you.
I hope that this will help keep the critters out of the building because I understand there was a problem with that.
Yeah, we do too. It most certainly will.
Well, and I know that the Parks Board has been looking at this for a while, so I'm glad that we're able to finally move on it.
Yes.
Yes. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I call for a vote on the approval of the Graber Post Buildings, Inc. service agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Robertson. It's nice to see you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
I move approval and agreement with Bledsoe Rigger Cooper James, service agreement, fund name 2017 Geo Bond, fund number 4810, an amount not to exceed $36,460.
Second.
And I assume you're filling in again, Mr. Robertson?
Yes, me again. So this is actually an addendum to a service agreement that was signed in January of 23 with Bledsoe Rigger Cooper and James to do some work for phase 2 of the Limestone Greenway. And the original agreement, VS Engineering, was listed to do the preliminary engineering bridge report. The request is to change from VS Engineering to KB Bridge Engineering for that report. I know this has been discussed with the County Highway engineer in Bledsoe, Rigger, Cooper, and James. There are no concerns on our end. But that said, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer. I'll also mention that the price is exactly the same.
Excellent. Questions, Commissioner Jones,
No, I don't.
Commissioner Thomas?
No, I don't. He answered the question I had, so thank you.
He's good at anticipating.
is.
Yeah. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I call for a vote on the Bledsoe, Rigger, Cooper, James service agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Next item, please.
I move approval of Izzy's rental service agreement, fund name, county general, and non-reverting fund numbers 1,000, 1178, 1179, not to exceed $3,000.
Second.
And Mr. Robertson.
Yes,
Tell us-
me again. So this service agreement again was approved in March with Izzy Rental, not to exceed $3,000. This is to clean our porta toilets and the parks and greenways. The services included would be pumping the toilets, blue water replacement, bleach rinsing, wiping down, and restocking. So our staff is thankful that services like this are available. But if there are any other questions, I'm again happy to answer.
Commissioner Jones,
No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Thomas.
No questions.
I know that Ms. Whitmer did extensive research to see if there, what companies were available to do that. This
Yes.
service in the area. And we're happy that we have somebody that can clean these facilities as well as do the pumping. So I told her I was not keen to do it myself. So anyway, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, call for vote on the Izzy's rental service agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Robertson.
Thank you.
Next item.
I move approval of a cooperative agreement on Title 4E cost recovery for public defense expenses, fund name, Title 4E, fund number 8117.
Second.
And we have Ms. Turner King from the legal department to talk to us about this. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. So what's before you today is a cooperative agreement between the Indiana Public Defender Commission and the county. What it allows for is reimbursement for public defender services as they relate to child in need of services cases and termination of parental rights cases. And with this agreement, the county's cost for providing representation in those cases would be fully reimbursed. So it's the cost will be fully reimbursed under this agreement and another agreement. So under another agreement, the Indiana Public Defender Commission pays 40% of the cost, and under this agreement, it would reimburse the remaining 60%.
Questions or comments?
No, I don't.
No questions. Thank you.
I'm pleased that we're able to get reimbursed, because when we go through the claims on a regular basis, I see charges for guardian ad litem. And so I assume that that's what is going to take care of that.
I think it also takes care of things like depositions and those kinds of cases, or anything related to the representation. Having been a prior public defender who has done those cases tend to last much longer. And you spend a lot more time doing depositions and attending meetings with DCS and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? See none, call for a vote on the cooperative agreement on Title 4E cost recovery for public defense expenses. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We have no appointments. I've got a list of announcements. Absentee voting is available, but you must have your request for the absentee ballot in to the clerk's office by end of the day tomorrow to be able to vote absentee. You can vote early in person at Election Central, 302 South Walnut Street. They are open weekdays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And this Saturday and the following Saturday, they will be open from 9 to 4. On Monday, May the 1st, the day before Election Day, they're open from 8 until noon. And of course, on Election Day, you would go to your regular polling place if you wish to vote then from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we urge people to get out and vote in the primaries in both Ellisville and Bloomington. As we heard from Ms. Ford earlier, free COVID-19 testing is still available at the Monroe County Health Department, 119 West 7th Street, and at the Monroe County Public Health Clinic at 333 East Miller Drive. We are accepting applications for boards and commissions at co.monroe.in.us. We continue to hold virtual office hours 6 times a month. And if you're interested, please go to the calendar, which is on our website. There are blood drives scheduled again at Ivy Tech. Next ones are Thursday, May the 11th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Friday, May the 12th from 1 to 6. There are also, since you have to wait 8 weeks between when you donate, there are drives on Wednesday, June the 12th from 10 to 3, Friday, June 16th from 10 to 3. Given the tornado we had at the end of March, I urge people to sign up for the Monroe County Alert Notification System. That's for weather and health-related emergencies and updates. And so you can also sign up for that at our website. We have extended the assistance fund for county residents who need assistance in paying for rent or utilities. If you need that help, please contact your township trustee. And finally, renters and homeowners who were affected by the March 31st, April 1st tornado and high winds may apply for FEMA assistance. You can do this via the FEMA app on your smartphone or tablet. You can do it online at disasterassistance.gov or by calling 800-621-3362. And if you have homeowners or renters insurance, you should apply for that as soon as possible also. The deadline for applying for the FEMA assistance is June the 14th, 2023. And again, you can apply at disasterassistance.gov or initiate things by calling 800-621-3362. Does anyone have any other announcements? Sorry, that was so long today, but especially to help the people that were impacted so severely, basically, by the bad weather. Wanted to make sure people have the information that they need. We will have a work session, but I'd like for us to take sort of a major break before we do that. Any suggestions about when we should come back? It's now almost 10:40. If we come back at what? What do you think? 11:30? 11:30? Does that work for everybody? Okay, we'll see people back here at 11:30. Thank you. Okay, well, I wish to call to order this work session of the Monroe County Board of Commissioners. Once again, all three commissioners are present here in the Nat U Hill Room. First item on our agenda is from legal, Mr. Baker.
Good morning. Is this to take up the boathouse settlement or?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. That is the first item on my agenda.
I thought I saw that. Last week, we negotiated a settlement of the case Monroe County versus Boathouse Apartments LLC that is currently pending in the Monroe Circuit Court 1. Was scheduled for jury trial beginning yesterday. And we vacated the trial date, or the judge did, pending review of the proposed settlement by the Plan Commission, which I believe happened last night. And I also believe was approved by the Plan Commission and reviewed by the Board of Commissioners this morning. Happy to discuss any facet of the settlement agreement or the case that you wish to hear about.
Commissioner Jones.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions or anything. I'm personally very, very disturbed by this. I will support it, but I just think this is extra proof that our justice system does not provide justice, that the wealthy have a huge foot up above the rest of us. If they can just keep on throwing their money at lawyers and all, I guess that's the one good thing about all of this, is that they wasted so much money on lawyers, but most people can't do that. So they just have to face the consequences. And this doesn't make me very happy.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yeah, I agree. It's taken a lot of time from our very talented legal staff who have a pile of other things to do. And I am not happy about it. I supported it last night, and for the same reason I will support it today, because this needs closure. But this is not how things are supposed to go. And we'll remember what happened. I'll just leave it at that.
It took, what, 6 years to get this resolved, which is just incredible. And you've gone through multiple iterations with the courts as well, correct?
Well, it certainly predates my time here. I've been here going on 4 years now, and this case pretty much day one landed on my desk, and it had already in my personal experience was a little dated, and at that point in time, almost 4 years ago. So it is a long toothed case, and we have, fought tooth and nail all the way. We've been through 2 appeals to the Court of Appeals. Where we were very successful. We ended up with a finding as a matter of law from the Court of Appeals that Boathouse Apartments violated both our building code and our zoning ordinance. It was remanded back to the trial court, and we were back to slogging it out again and facing a jury trial where the result wasn't certain. And that brings home the point of what a settlement is. It's a compromise, and it's said among trial lawyers that the best settlement is one that nobody's happy about. It's a compromise for both, and the settlement generally happens within a range, and the range is a continuum of what we think the jury verdict might be in any given case. And in this type of case, an ordinance enforcement case, one end of the continuum is, even when we've had the Court of Appeals say that they violated the law, our ordinance provides a range of fines, and at one end is 0. Even if they've been found to have violated the ordinance, the jury could come back with 0. And then on the other end is the cap that's placed on fines by Indiana code. So within that is where the settlement was reached, and I don't know what the owner of Boathouse thinks about the settlement today, but I know what we think about it, and I think our thoughts and our unhappiness with the settlement doesn't make it seem like the best settlement. It doesn't make it feel all that good. But with anything that we do, especially in the litigation context, and to be clear, we are not a litigation shop. We are advisors to you all, and as part of our service to you all and the county, we do our level best to assist the departments who are charged with enforcement of ordinances and providing them with legal representation and occasionally in the courts in matters like this one. And again, since I came on here, we've had a couple at least of ordinance enforcement cases that butted us against fairly large resources, not just fiscal money resources, but manpower resources. And so we're a 4-attorney shop, and we've got plenty to do day in and day out, just with the normal municipal matters that come up. And then we're faced as well with slogging it out in a fairly aggressive litigation matter. We're not well suited to it, but by golly, we do pretty good. And we have in this particular case, and it makes this settlement seem not very tasteful. But it is a compromise, and I think we rightly weigh the resolution of it to the reality that of uncertainty with the jury, some uncertainty with court rulings that we were waiting on to the 11th hour and never received. Thankfully, they weren't necessary after all. So anyway, I share your disappointment, but we did our level best here. And I think we made good law that helps all of the counties here in Indiana enforce their ordinances. And so I'm trying to see upsides, and that is an upside. We did well here for all the counties in our state.
Thank you. Then can I have a motion to accept this settlement?
I move that we accept this settlement with, again, great thanks to our legal staff and their talent. Thank you so much for your effort.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we take public comment? We don't, do we, during the work session?
Typically, if you're going to vote, you will take public comment, although this is a settlement agreement. So I think you could go either way on that.
Does anyone have public comment?
We didn't take public comment last night,
Okay, well,
not on this item.
I don't see anyone with their hand raised. Oh, well, I guess we have a question. Sir.
Sorry. Sure. Dave Essence with the B Square Bulletin. As long as there was some discussion about whether public comment should be offered, I figured I would ask a question, which is, where can we get a copy of the settlement agreement? Will that be posted to the website somewhere, or where can I get at that? That's the question. Thanks.
Mr. Baker.
Yes. So as I mentioned a moment ago, the Plan Commission voted yesterday evening to approve the settlement agreement. And now we have a vote from the Board of Commissioners approving the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement is a contractual document that a representative of each of the boards will sign off on, approving the settlement and entry into the contract of settlement with Boathouse. Once all parties have executed that document, there is no confidentiality provision in the release document, so I suspect it's a public record that we can disclose upon a request that would come in any form. Doesn't have to be a formal public access request or anything like that.
It's in the packet last night from the planning commission meeting.
And I believe it also, it's actually in our work session packet for today.
Yes,
That's where I reviewed it.
just doesn't have the signatures, but that's the document that will be executed.
I'm sending, I also have a link I'm sending you, Dave.
So, and seeing no other public comment or questions, I'll take a vote on approving the settlement agreement between Monroe County and Boathouse Apartments LLC. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Baker, for your work on this. Would you please stay at the podium and talk to us about what you observed during the work your committee did in reviewing the RFQs for sorry, I'm drawing blank here all of a sudden, for the work that you were involved in, a committee that reviewed RFQs for jail facility. And we did get an email from the sheriff. Would you please tell us what you observed during the workings?
Sure. I guess I'll just go on a timeline that'll help me form my thoughts. My involvement with that particular task, that endeavor, came about when my colleague in the legal department, Jeff Cockrell, to use a legal phrase, recused from his involvement in the matter, and I think rightly so. I think one of the companies that submitted informational materials, I believe to you all, listed Jeff as a reference, and that being the case, Jeff had no choice but to cease any further substantive involvement in the process. I'd hit a point in my litigation matters and appeals where I had time, and our other two attorneys had a full load. It seemed appropriate for me to fill Jeff's shoes. And I think probably that was a good thing. I hadn't had any real involvement at all or much familiarity with what was going on other than just my interest or curiosity as a citizen of Monroe County and what in the jail construction process. So I came to it with a really clean slate of knowledge and an uninformed set of eyes, a new set of eyes in the matter. So made sense. I was happy to do it. And I think my first involvement was a meeting that was held back in January in the legal department conference room. Jeff kind of chaired that meeting informally, kind of ran the meeting, which he does so well. I recall Jeff being there. I was there. Angie was there. David Gardner, Richard Kreider, Sheriff Marti. I don't remember anyone else. With the passage of time, my memory is a little soft, vague there. But those are the folks that I remember being at that meeting. And at that point in time, it seems to me the main point of discussion was how do we want to engage these companies? And there were three companies that we were principally interested in, that we had received information materials from. We were interested in engaging three companies in particular. And then the discussion really turned and focused on how do we want to go about that? And and there was much discussion around the table. I don't recall saying much. Again, I was very new to the whole thing and so I was listening and observing more than anything. But the point of discussion was, do we engage these companies individually and then do we do it in an open forum or a closed forum? And there was discussion about it. I think Jeff was interested in it being in an open forum, and then others wished for it to be in a closed forum. I really had no preference either way. What we were talking about reminded me a little bit in my mind of the process we go through when we receive bid packets and how we review those. We do those in kind of in a closed matter, and then they're decided upon in a public forum. And in my mind, that's kind of how I analogized the way forward if we went in a closed way as opposed to an open way. And the decision was ultimately made that we would proceed in a closed forum. And I think the point of it was, and I'll connect this up to the email referenced a minute ago to this. The point was, I think, for efficiency and to, most importantly, have a discussion with each of the companies that would be open and candid. There can be, in these instances, information that can be controversial, and maybe one side or the other might be reluctant to engage about. And the hope was that we could, in this important task, in this important project, have a very candid discussion with them, dialogue with them that would help us pick the right company to carry us forward with this really important project. And when we completed this discussion during that first meeting that I attended in January, I sensed no dissent whatsoever. I heard no dissent whatsoever. All participated in the discussion, except maybe me, other than my listening and observing, which I do occasionally. A little unusual for a lawyer. And I left there firmly convicted that that's what we were going to do, and everyone seemed perfectly fine with it. Jeff was too. And so that's what we did. What I recall next was an email going out, and it might have been from Jeff, might have been from someone else, scheduling these companies over a 3-day period. We were going to talk with 3 of them, and we would talk with them on separate days, as I recall it. My next involvement was that first appointment, for lack of a better way of putting it, because essentially that's what it was. I don't remember which company it was that we talked to that first time, but I do remember, in addition to the company representatives who were there, I was there, Angie was there, Richard was there, David Gardner was there. The sheriff was not there. He sent his jail commander, and I believe the deputy jail commander or the assistant jail commander came as the sheriff's representatives. And that proceeded forward. We had another meeting a day or two later. Same cast showed up for that meeting. I'm not sure that both of the jail personnel showed up for that one. May have been one. And same process. It was very much seemed to me, the presentations were formal, but the dialogue was very informal, very engaged. I thought helpful. And then the third, same process. I'm not sure that both jail personnel showed up. I think one did. I could be wrong. I took no notes during those meetings. It didn't seem to be a particularly complex matter. I was really interested personally in hearing them, watching their presentations, weighing what they were telling us, evaluating it a little bit from I'm not an engineer. I felt more like, and I wasn't thinking of it in terms of, in legal terms either. I was just listening to it and forming my thoughts about it all. Anyway, after the third meeting, which was the last meeting, I very quickly formed an opinion in my mind of about these companies. And I suppose in my mind, I ranked them, who I liked the best, who I liked the least. I liked them all, actually, but I did in my mind rank them. And that was the last of it for me until a meeting was scheduled, and I'm a little vague about how it was scheduled, probably by email, in the council's conference room. I'll stop there before I go further with it. And I'll say at no point, and this kind of goes back to the email, there's some suggestion or innuendo that those of us who are your employees were encouraged or persuaded or told to come to a certain result. No such conversation was ever had with me. No one asked me what I thought. I think I might have shared that I thought they were all great. I think I shared that with Jeff and Angie, but that's the normal chatter we have about any number of things. But as far as how I rank them or anything substantive, no one ever had a conversation with me about that. And if such a conversation had been had, I would have rejected it. I'm a professional. I've been an attorney for 27 years, going on 28. I form my own opinions about things, and the rules of professional conduct require me as your attorney to form my own opinions, and whether you like them or not. And in exchange, you get to take them or leave them. That's your own peril, either way. But I have never felt I've never felt pressure by anyone in Monroe County government to think a certain way or say a certain thing or anything less than what I think. And I will say that if anything like that ever happened, I would reject it very pointedly. So the suggestion or the innuendo in the email, at least as it concerns me, is false and unsupported by anything other than the writer's unsubstantiated personal opinion. And I think it's unfortunate. And I take offense to it, personally and professionally. So taking us back to that fourth encounter where we were asked to come up to the council's conference room. I think I was running a little bit late. That was pointed out in the email. Thought that was interesting. I try to be punctual. That day something caused me to be late. Anyway, we sat down, and as I recall it, I think Angie or someone, we took a quick straw poll from everyone. What do we all think? How did they stack up? And it was easy for me to recall what I thought, and it just so happened that most everyone else, as I recall it, was of the same mind. I think Angie, and she can correct me as she does sometimes if I'm wrong, I think she was a little ambivalent about 2 and 3, but we were all in agreement about 1. And I think by the time we were done chatting about it, Angie was agreeable with the rest of us. So I think at that time, a couple of the attendees had filled out an RFQ form, a score form. I didn't. I didn't I just didn't. I knew how I was ranking them. And I think one of the jail personnel who was there at that meeting who voted the same way I did or gave us the same result ranking wise as I did. I don't think he finished the scorecard either, but in any case, whatever. Angie, I think, asked if we needed the forms. And in my opinion, in my legal opinion, I didn't feel that they were particularly necessary. And this is why. One, we were the procedure that we had embarked upon at that first meeting in January that I attended was not one that's required by law. It was a way to facilitate our acquaintance and understanding of these companies and what they could do for us in designing and constructing a jail. And there weren't any, and therefore there weren't any legal requirements about how we ranked these companies. To my notion, it was just it was rather informal in that regard. And I didn't think that we necessarily, given that we were all unanimous, those present at that meeting in how we rank them, I didn't feel that the scorecards added anything to the matter. Because as I understood it, we were just going to convey to you how we ranked them. And from there, you all would then take that for what it was worth and then proceed as you're required to do. And all boards of commissioners here in Indiana are required to do by statute when you all want to construct a jail. So that was my opinion. I stated it to Angie, and that was the end of that matter. And we finished up our business very quickly. It was a very quick meeting. And then I think not too long after that, maybe a week or so, we heard that we needed to fill out score sheets. I was fine with that. It made me no difference one way or the other. I thought that the score sheets were redundant of our ranking since we were all of the same mind. But I quickly filled out my sheet, and I think I might have scanned it and sent it to Angie. It wasn't difficult to do. I didn't take any notes. I'm not a note taker, but it wasn't easy it wasn't difficult to do. I mean, in my mind, it was very easy to rank them and to score them. It wasn't complex. So that was that. And I think that was the end of my involvement until I received a very long email that was written, and I think I received it along with all of the other attorneys, so it wasn't unusual. We often receive things for review and consideration and advice if asked or needed. I read the email. I've read it now 3 times. Which is twice more than I usually review something, and it was to understand what the message was, what the point of the communication was. And I now have a very firm personal view of the point of the email, and I have a professional opinion about it too. The premise of the email, and this blurs a little bit with my personal view, but it is my professional opinion too. The premise of the email is a narrative that the email is all about transparency. That's the purported purpose of the email. The premise of the email, in my professional opinion, is false. It suggests very directly at points throughout the email and a little indirectly in other points that there was some effort to undermine transparency in the manner that we went about our business in engaging these companies. And that is just completely false. That was going back to that first meeting. It was about candor and efficiency and effective communication with these companies. We chose the course that we chose, that everyone, including the sheriff, agreed with for those reasons. And from our legal perspective, we weren't particularly concerned. We had formed the opinion that that process was lawful because, and not subject to open door law, because we weren't really a formal group appointed by you all. It struck me as very informal. Like I was called to become a participant on the of the group on the spot, really, not by some formal appointment. It struck me how we conducted things to be very informal, really something different than what day to day we deal with as far as boards and committees and bodies that gather information and take up public business that are subject to the open door law. So that concern wasn't at the forefront of my mind, but in any case, there was no effort by anyone to be anything less than transparent. The goal of the open door law is transparency, and we across the board in Monroe County government strive for that, and the attorneys in our office do our level best to ensure transparency in the broadest sense. So I think the notion that Angie or anyone else had formed some scheme to thwart transparency for whatever purpose is just false. And it's unfortunate, and particularly from the person who wrote the email. So, and I take exception to it. I was a participant in that, and I certainly wouldn't participate in anything that I thought was untoward or sinister or anything less than in accordance with the law. And I think I speak for the other of the members of that group too, Richard and David, Angie. We did our best, and any suggestion to the contrary, I think is just is not accurate. It's false, and I think ill-motivated. Those are the things that come to my mind. I'm happy to answer any questions. I've gone on pretty long. I apologize, but I'll answer any questions you have, anything that comes to mind.
Commissioner Jones?
Not at this time.
I appreciate the explanation because none of us were there. So it does help to have, that account, and do appreciate it. And I feel like, what it ends up coming down to was, oh gosh, it wasn't unanimous, it was a majority. And to me, that's,
it was unanimous for the folks that were in the room.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, there was unanimity.
There you go.
If your position is it wasn't unanimous, you're counting someone who wasn't there. And I don't think that's the way we count votes in these United States.
Yeah.
The other thing too, that kind of bothers me a little bit is if there was a problem, and this goes back to the email, and it's lengthy. If there was a problem or a concern among anybody that participated in that process about the integrity of that process, that we were being anything less than transparent or adhering to the required level of transparency, I'm a little hard of hearing, and I can't help that, but I didn't hear it. And I'm pretty aggressive in my legal capacity about fixing anything that I think might be wrong as quickly as I can, and correcting anything that might have happened that could be construed as wrong. I didn't hear anything. I was the only lawyer in that room, and not one person looked at me and said, "Hey, Lee, I got a problem here. I'm not real sure that we're doing this the right way. I didn't hear any of that. I'm going back to the first meeting where everyone said, yeah, let's do it this way, including the sheriff. And not once during any of those meetings that I attended, including the very last one, did I hear anyone raise a concern about how we had done things or the advice that I gave Angie that we didn't need those forms. We were unanimous in how we ranked them, and the forms would add nothing that we weren't conveying to you to do with what you would, the ranking of those companies. So that bothers me a bit. It seems a little convenient to be nice about it at this point to claim that we had concerns all along when I heard nothing. And I would have surely addressed them very quickly had I heard them and they'd been presented to me. And that was not the case. So again, the premise of the email is wrong, is false. The concerns that we weren't following a process that was appropriate or proper was not raised. So I feel like we did the best we could. And I think we came to the right result among us. And again, no one talked to me about how I ranked them before I expressed it for the first time. And I assume that the others had the same experience. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that raises a really good question about why send such a long email about something that was a whole lot of nothing in terms of an issue. And it's unfortunate that, our staff members have been maligned, and I don't think that's fair or right. I'm not sure what the purpose was of all of that. And I guess it was just another gotcha moment. I don't know.
Well, and there has been a complaint filed with the state, and we will get a ruling on that too, as to whether or not things were done properly. And I think that we have that also going on. So.
Well, we sure do, and we'll prepare a response to the complaint, and we'll send that to the public access counselor, who will review it and make a decision. There are most of the public, the open door law is very clear in its requirements, but there are certain facets of the open door law that aren't necessarily clear and a little unsettled. And we'll delve into that because those areas are pertinent here. And our legal opinion that we weren't subjected to the open door law here may or may not have been correct. We're not always right, despite our very best efforts. But we have done well here in Monroe County in compliance with the open door law. And I think the public access counselor will agree with that. We have a very good relationship with him and often seek counsel when necessary to ensure compliance where we're not certain. And when we, despite our best efforts, come up on the wrong side, the public access counselor is usually very helpful in giving us thoughts about how we can correct it. And we are, without any exception, very quick to take corrective action where necessary. And that this matter will be no exception. We're either right or we're not, and we'll do whatever needs to be done to correct it. But I think the process that we followed was good and it was informative. And I think we ranked them correctly, and the unanimity is proof of that.
Ms. Purdy, your name has come up a few times today. Would you like to add anything to what Mr. Baker has said?
No, and I just want to say thank you. As we all know, I have felt very attacked by the email, and so it's I am just extremely appreciative of being able to hear from legal, have my commissioners who have been supporting me. I apologize. These are tears because I'm just so appreciative of that someone other than me giving the truth, and it needed to be done. And thank you. And I apologize again for my tears.
Don't apologize.
I also am very appreciative of you coming forward today. We have a fabulous legal staff.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Oh, my gosh, we're so grateful. Folks who work with us.
We have a fabulous staff and it is not, it's extremely unpleasant to see them being attacked in such a kind of gotcha way.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, Mr. Cockrell?
I don't think I could add anything that Lee hasn't stated. I was only at what I consider to be the scheduling meeting, so a lot of the factual stuff.
Yeah.
I don't-
Helpful. So helpful to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You may be excused, I think.
Thank you.
I also want to have a discussion about what's going on with the Community Justice Reform Committee, or the CJRC. This committee's been in existence for close to 2 years. And I feel like the most progress that's been made has been the selection of DLZ to help with our design work. But I'm very frustrated about not being able to move on some other stuff. And so I've asked Commissioner Thomas if she'll put up something for me so that I can talk rather than trying to talk in and operate my computer, which I'm not super good at with doing things on Zoom. But in January, I joined the CJRC and went back and looked at the report from Ken Ray and Alan Beck. And in that report, I went through it and looked at what they talked about with their recommendations for the court processing. And I came up with a kind of a long list of what they were recommending in terms of changes. And part of that, I'd like to go ahead and read these into the record, if that's okay with my colleagues. One was to implement a population management coordinator program so that they could monitor and track inmate lengths of stay, and to implement a case flow efficiency in the courts. That, according to the consultants, they didn't feel like this was happening very, very easily or very well. I'm okay, thank you. Second was to increase the office space for the probation pretrial release unit. And that is not something that I think is going to be easily done today. Next was to refine the decision-making guidelines for pretrial release program. Provide weekend staffing for the pretrial release program. Currently, if someone is picked up, say, at 5 o'clock on a Friday evening, it's my understanding that they sit there till Monday, although I may not be correct in that. I'm happy to be corrected if that's incorrect. It was recommended that they use software to monitor the elapsed time from filing of a case to the actual disposition, because we're seeing folks, the length of stay actually impacts the number of beds that are needed in a facility. So they said that the criminal court should analyze reasons for continuances and implement methods to control them. That we need referrals that the referrals that are made to specialty courts need to be expedited rather than waiting a week or 2 weeks, however long it is. They need a differentiated case management along with a process to control continuances, and that they consider the reduction or elimination of pretrial release charges for people that are later found not guilty. What's happening currently is if you are arrested and then later found not guilty, but have been put on a pretrial release with an ankle, I think they call them a bracelet, but you still have to pay the fees. And for some reason, I personally disagree with that kind of a process. So I would like to propose that, given that we've had this report for almost 2 years, I would like to ask that we start to break up into subgroups and that we ask a court processing subgroup to be formed of the judges, prosecutor, and public defender's office, and that they come back to us and respond to these kinds of things that were in the report. And I'd be happy to email them these recommendations. I even, when I went through this and, was making notes for myself, I actually took out the page numbers that I can refer them to. But I'd like to see that, because what happens with the courts impacts the number of beds that we will finally want to tell our contractors that we want to have in a new facility. So reducing length of stay, improving court processes is something that I have no control over. None of the three of us have control over. No one on the CJRC committee, except for those involved in the criminal court processes, have control over. So I would like to ask that we request this group to be formed and that they tell us when they will come back to us with a response to these kinds of things. But I want to raise this with my colleagues here. I want to know if the court processing group is interested in having one or more courtrooms built into the new facility. This all impacts the kinds of things that I view as what we want. I know that surveys have been done, but surveys don't talk to me about processing and changing certain things.
So if I might ask if we could just have a conversation about this, I would appreciate it. Couple things come to mind. First of all, I don't think we can ask them to be a subcommittee, but I think we can ask them for a report. So so there's a minor word choice there that I might ask to be amended, but I agree that we need to get this information. This is something we should have. I don't know that they'll be ready in less than 2 weeks. I'm guessing they're not going to be ready to provide this report. And I think it's a good idea to ask them when they're ready. And we make that the next CJRC meeting. I think it's been incredibly frustrating. The CJRC committee has been, this roller coaster of highs and lows, and the highs have come from the public who are truly concerned and interested and active and really want change. And it may be change we can do, and it may be change we can't do. There are really thoughtful, heartfelt, soulful people out there who have provided really great input. And I think the lows have been just working in this environment where it should have been how we're used to working, which is we talk to other departments. I've taken another step back. Sorry. I've been in the last several weeks, I have had the opportunity and been asked to explain how county government works in different settings. And one of the things I talk about is the fact that we have so many unlike the city who has appointed department heads, we have elected department heads, and we work together because we have to work together. And addressing the whole criminal justice entity requires all of us to work together. We're used to working with a lot of other departments and other elected officials. We don't always agree, but that's how you come up with a better solution. It sometimes is slower, but it's collaborative. And collaborative doesn't mean everything goes one way. It just means you listen, you learn, you have to make tough decisions. And just like this, somebody's unhappy. Somebody's not going to be entirely happy with the decision making. There's no way to make a decision that makes everyone happy. There's no possibility that we're going to do anything with the CJRC related intercept 0 through 6 that will make everyone happy. Get over it. We're not going to do it. So I am concerned because I thought that this committee was going to be more of the same, meaning conversations, debate, discussion, information gathering, thoughtful exchanges of ideas, a respectful set of debates and disagreements and arguments and well-argued points. And what has become, instead of collaborative, it has become adversarial. It has become, we're going to ask you the same questions 40 times, even if we've already said, we don't have the answers now, and we won't have the answers for a while, but we keep getting asked the same questions over and over and over again. It is adversarial, and it should not be that way. It is not what I expected. It is not necessary. And it has led to us running on this loop. And we're not moving forward on much of anything. And it seems to be okay with some of the folks in the committee. It is not okay with me that we are not moving forward. And I believe in my heart of hearts that we need to get our subcommittees going. And I agree that we need to ask the judicial group of the judges, prosecutor, public defender, probation, community corrections, whoever they want to invite, because we're not picking this group, right? They can invite whoever they want to invite to get working on this, because some things we may be able to do now. And I really appreciated you pointed that out, that there are some things we can do now. Maybe there's some things we can do now. So please work on this. We can ask, I think we need to put this in an email and ask officially that they work on this. I agree. My question then is, what are the other subcommittees and what are we going to do? And I would recommend that we have a facility subcommittee to work on siting to start with, to look at all of those multiple properties that are possible. But I don't want to hog the conversation. I already have.
As we start to talk about facilities, and I think that's an appropriate subgroup as well. I don't know. I mean, we have talked about this for a while now.
Yes.
I would like for Mr. Cockrell to share when it is appropriate to not have a public meeting when you're talking about site plans.
Well, not site plan.
Well, site
Not
plans,
site plans, citing. Sorry, thank you.
and if you want to do site plan,
I'm emotional about this too. Sorry.
well, I would start with that there is a potential that site plans, to the extent it involves security risk, should be done in executive session. I think you're talking about the negotiation and that aspect of purchasing property. And I think there is a state code that allows for, when we're discussing those kind of property transactions, that those conversations should be done in executive session. No final action can happen in executive session, but that those conversations could have. It's the process we went through when we looked at the Fulton Pike site. You know, we looked and said, hey, here's, 3 different properties we're looking at. There's this, and and so when we're looking at terms of those kind of things, to me, it's somewhat common sense that you want to have those kind of negotiating and letting your negotiators know what your maximum price is, or what those kind of things are done in private. And then, the agreement will demonstrate that it's within that amount or not. Site location, if you would ask me that question 10 years ago, my answer might be a little different than it is today. But because 10 years ago, I would have said something to the effect of, oh, we just want to do it so we can get a better price. I think right now, I think that there's also the aspect of with real estate being the hot commodity it's been the last few years with COVID, and I know it goes up and down and all that, but the availability of the property when we're talking about, hey, we want to look at this site or that site is as much a part of the risk and concern as the actual the price of the property, right? So, we've got 2 appraisals, so we know we're not going to overpay based upon that but making sure that, we talk about and we are securing the property before it maybe even hits the open market or something like that is a real reason that we would want to do this in executive session. That isn't to say you have to, right? There is nothing in the law that says you can't have those conversations in public, but I think from a practical perspective, if you want to get the correct property at a price, particularly if you're looking to try to get a discount, then you need to do those things in executive session.
I think that it's reasonable to do with taxpayer money. Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier about some of the other discussions, but I think it was important to talk about that when we start to talk about the sites and the facility.
Yeah. I have been disturbed by the extent to which members of the committee and some people in the public have assumed that we've made all kinds of decisions that, yes, we need to make. We had hoped to make them in the course of civilized conversations among each other. And it just does not seem that it's been possible to do that. A lot of the time, it feels more like we're on trial. And by we, I mean the commissioners. This was not the purpose of that committee. That committee was actually formed before the decision was made that we needed a new jail, and it was formed to look at ways to make putting people in jail less necessary, to help people avoid having any interactions with the court system, which frequently really messes up people's lives. Unfortunately, we have not really headed in that direction at all. And it seems that, that everyone's pulling in different directions and just looking for ways to show any small action that in some way has not seemed appropriate to someone.
I think for me too, especially after hearing the DLZ presentation, when they laid out sort of their timeline for things, we have to know certain things before we can actually make some of the decisions that they want. So that's why I think we need to have this kind of report or response from a judicial group. I would like to personally, sometime in the near future, form a treatment group. We should know within, I hope, 2 weeks, whether or not there's going to be funding for regional mental health facilities, which is being considered right now in the state legislature in House Bill 1006. And perhaps there are opportunities to work with private concerns like we saw out in Tucson with the Connections Health Solutions. Sorry, it's on my pen. That's what I was looking for here. And like has been put into place up in Morgan County, actually, where they have detox center, they have long-term kind of inpatient setup, they have transitional housing, they have all kinds of stuff that, again, if we can prevent people, that intercept zero that we've talked about, but we've learned a lot over the last 4 years that we've been looking at these things. And I know that the consultants were actually hired before I was caucused into my position, which literally in another 10 days, it will be, so it will be four full years. So I want us to move forward. I don't want people sitting in a jail that's unconstitutional. I don't want people working in a jail that we have recently had described to us. And I really, really applaud the work that is going on in the jail right now by the sheriff and by the jail commander. I think that if that improves the working conditions for the staff, if that improves the kind of attitude and behavior of people who are inside there, I am very, very much in favor of this, but I am not in favor of continuing to punt this down the road while people sit in that awful, awful facility. And that is what is driving me at this point. I want progress. I want it now. And like I said, I am very emotional about this. Any one of us could have someone that we love in that facility. It wouldn't take a whole lot in certain situations. And I don't want them there.
Yeah, and I would just say that, you know, yes, the people who are in the facility certainly deserve better. Their families deserve better. The public, the taxpayer deserves better than what the CJRC has become. And I think progress is needed. I absolutely agree. And I think we all do that's what we need to focus on is moving forward. And I think, and I did hear and clock that we'd been told that there's, you know, this potential problem of siloing information and yes, there might potentially be more than one meeting to go to. And yes, we understand that. I understand that. But I also understand that trying to make progress right now with the larger group is just not working. And, you know, we got some, you know, it's not to say the whole thing's been a waste. It hasn't. We've gotten some good survey results. We've had some good discussions at some points. But I just feel like progress requires focus. And we are not, and again, to restate, it's not going to be perfect, but we cannot be paralyzed by analysis either. We're going to do the very best. I think it's important to note as well that we are not asking, and we never ask the CJRC to make decisions for us. The decision about siting and building a facility is up to the council and the commissioners. We also, I would assume, and I think I'm not going too far in saying this, that we would like to have the input of the sheriff and jail commander. But this is not for the CJRC to make a decision on. We have a decision to make. We have been elected to make these tough decisions. We've made them all along. Think back to COVID, not that long ago. We made tough decisions. And we got pushed back then too, by the way. But
but we also were the only county in the state that did some really novel things to keep our people housed, healthy, fed.
Yeah, we were elected to make tough decisions. So we are not abdicating our responsibility. The CJRC was intended to help inform this first decision, but it's supposed to be intercept 0 through 6. There are a lot of other things that we have to talk about. And I don't want us to have a large group focused on something that a smaller group needs to make a decision about and needs to move forward. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, I agree with that. It needs to be the commissioners, council, people from the sheriff's office that work on what goes in the facility. But then I also need to hear from that judicial group. Do we need 1 courtroom, 2 courtrooms? Or is your preference to eventually be co-located? Because that impacts the amount of property that we have to purchase. And we've also, you know, I was talking to a member of the community yesterday and was explaining that jails have a much shorter lifespan than a traditional building. You know, we're sitting in a building right now that, although it's been rehabbed, was built finished in 1907. So, we're looking at well over 100 years. Jails generally have a lifespan of about 30 years. They're used hard. Well, if we buy property that has enough space to do that next build or the expansion, that would be what would be the next build. 30 years from now, people won't be having to go through this same kind of process.
Exactly.
And also, if we build the right facility, it is not used as hard. And we've heard that now. So maybe by building the right thing, we extend the life of the jail initially even. So, yeah, it does matter whether you've got porcelain versus stainless steel toilets at some level. And it does matter if you've got food at the door when people are brought in. So I think that there are a lot of things that we have thought about. And I agree with Commissioner Thomas that we have heard a lot of good things. We have gotten pushback, but it hasn't discouraged me.
No.
What actually part of what I'm encouraged about is I feel like there are people in the community that are willing to step forward and help with some of the things like reentry, especially to help with figuring out some of these treatment challenges that we have. So I am not discouraged about what we've listened to at this point, but I want to know, are we going to ask people to meet in 12 days or are we going to suspend things for right now? What is the pleasure of my colleagues?
I think we suspend and ask the judicial group and to ask them when they can report to us, and that'll be our next meeting. And if they aren't ready, I think we should still meet in maybe a month or two, maybe 3, I don't know, but in a bit, so that we can report from the facility side anyway. I think that's going to be what CJRC should be, as sort of the hub that receives information, asks questions for further consideration, not challenge. This isn't about challenging and gotcha. This is about receiving information, asking good questions, thinking about other ways of doing things, providing input and advice. Hopefully it can turn into that again. But I would ask that maybe we get this written up in an email, get it sent over to the Board of Judges and ask them what their preference is in terms of when we should meet again.
Well, and also the public defender's
yeah,
office, the prosecutor's office. Yeah.
And I think, we've been hearing things about, we should have so-and-so speak at the CJRC, whatever it might be. I think some of those recommendations are great. They're things we already had on our list. And I think we need a group to deal with treatment. It could be Intercept 0, but definitely 5 and 6. Really reducing recidivism. And that may have to be a couple of groups at some point, but for now we could start with one. But to think about all those community groups, and that's who those presentations should go to. My commitment, and I know I can speak for all of us on this one, our commitment is to be as transparent as possible, as often as possible, even if we're not having public meetings about citing the facility. Once we have information, we will be as transparent as possible. We will do as much in the public as possible. And I would ask, because we've got judges, prosecutor, public defender, et cetera. They have been sitting in CJR, some members have been sitting, not all of them, have been sitting in CJRC, and we've all talked about transparency. Those meetings that they have should be public meetings. They should be transparent, and they should take public comment at those meetings when they go through and work on those judicial processes. I would ask that they do that. I think that's the only thing that's fair to ask. On behalf of all the taxpayers and all the people in the community who are concerned about this. The processes are the driving force right now. We need their information, but the public needs their transparency. So that's my challenge to them.
I agree with everything.
I'm making notes here about who and what we need to send out here. Yeah, and I would like for us to put together the facilities group. And, you know, as I sit here thinking about this, there are people that we know the names of the people who've come and spoken to the meetings. Those are people that I would start with to tap for things like the treatment group, the reentry group. They've already shown an interest in what we're doing.
And a commitment.
Yeah, and a passion for
Yeah.
what's going on.
Mhm.
And so I will try to, if possible, work with Courtney Mosier in the council office and get that going. Also work with our council colleagues on which of the different groups that they want to participate in. I hope it's more than one at times. I know I'm extremely interested in the treatment group. I believe my colleagues, at least one or two of them, are also. I care about the reentry kinds of programs.
Mhm.
And we saw some great things out in Arizona, again, with release and planning that right at the facility. So
And transitional housing.
the transitional housing,
Yep.
and I think that the DLZ spoke about things on Monday related to those kinds of things too, where they were talking about having space in the jail where other entities come in to work on some of the stuff that we're
Mhm.
talking about here. So all that has to go into the planning for what a facility would look like. And so
Mhm.
I applaud our county council colleagues who said beds, no more than 400 beds, but I need other information
Mhm.
before I want to
Yeah,
sign my name
Yeah.
to the dotted line
Yeah.
on that.
yeah. I know one of the things we talked about is the fact that if we have treatment facilities inside the jail facility, that to me, that reduces the number of beds you need overall, but it counts toward that bed count. So I think we just have to, I think one of the things we need is flexibility. I certainly want, for me personally, I want to see the smallest bed count possible and the biggest programming space possible and the biggest treatment space possible. Because that's how we're going to reduce recidivism. I don't want to build a big jail to fill it. That's not my goal. And I know my colleagues have said the same thing. That's not, we've expressed that. So I appreciate that. I appreciate we've had the conversation and I think for the first time in a bit, I'm feeling optimistic that we can make some progress. So thank you.
Well, and also I look forward to some of the information we asked DLZ to give us. We had asked, like I personally had asked if there is data on if you have used this direct supervision model, what that does to turnover of the jail staff. And certainly with the kinds of facilities that we've seen in Indiana as well as other locations, because of the way things are built, it requires less staffing. So we also want to see model a building that puts less emotional strain on our staff.
And we did, I think this is one of the many things, we learned a lot on our tours and, as what the list of many things we've been, dinged for. Oh my gosh, you went to Arizona. Oh my gosh. Yes, we went and we learned a lot. And it's led me to conduct more research. And I think we have more research to do individually and together on very specific issues like staffing and direct supervision, because what we heard from some of the facilities was that using direct supervision as the method of supervision within the jail facility actually takes less staff. So this is just, I've got a long list of research to keep working through and I'm still doing it. So.
Well, I referenced talking with a constituent yesterday. That person suggested that we also post our vision, which I don't think we've done. And we did express our vision a while back. Post that and also post even our notes from our visits to the different facilities. And so that would include what we've seen and what Councilperson Iverson saw. But to get those notes up, they don't have to, I've written things, I can certainly share them.
Yeah, there are some things that I think we could create a pretty strong list of things that we like, things that we talked about, things we thought were innovative, things we might want to explore that we've learned from other facilities. I think when we've had some pretty honest exchanges with employees and staff members at various places around the country. And so there are some things I wouldn't put on the website.
Well, we can look at stuff. Yeah.
I just wanted to comment that the vision that we expressed came from the notes that were taken as we visited these various facilities. There was no meeting between us where we decided exactly what we wanted. And we don't know exactly what we want. That vision was just what could be a possibility based on what we had seen.
Yeah, I think that also if I can figure it out in my own head, I think one of the things that Debbie Fish, a community member, asked at one of the meetings recently is if we could just kind of create a spreadsheet of what we saw at different facilities, you know, and sort of in my mind, I want to rank those. Yes, for me, I like that direct service or direct supervision kind of model. I liked having an individual rec space for each pod. If that's not possible, then I want to go for one pod for two. Two pods for one rec space. Definitely single story. I mean, that's what we're hearing all across the country basically at this point. So I think if we can kind of create some kind of metric spreadsheet, whatever, that I think it would help people with the comparison that we have done in our minds because we've seen a lot of the different places, but other people didn't get to see them.
Yeah, and I can work on that and then send it out to you all to add your thoughts to, and then we can throw it on the website. But you know, I think if you talk to the individual members of the CJRC, if you talk to the individual members of relevant departments for any of the intercept 0 through 6, you would see that there's a heck of a lot of agreement.
Yes.
And that gets, you know, that gets lost in the fact that there's this like, oh, we gotta prove whatever, we have to do whatever. You know, let's not lose sight of the fact that there's a great deal of agreement, but I think we're stalled. And what I want us to move forward, you want us to move forward, you want us to move forward. Let's get going. It's becoming painful.
It is. It is. And like I said, I don't want to have delays for even a single day. And I think if we can create some of these kinds of reports that we're talking about, then we have things to react to. The community has things to react to. And so until we see some of that, it's harder. And it's the same thing, you know, we heard from DLZ that once we start to put things on paper, then we can take it out to people to get reactions.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Then we'll suspend CJRC meetings for the time being. I will get out an email to different groups, individuals, and we will try to move forward. And I thank everybody for their patience and time today. Thank you both for having this discussion with me. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to, that you have the same feeling about this. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Our hearts are in it too.
Thank you.
May I recommend that you vote on that?
that we have to have. a
So
motion.
Second.
All right. Call for a vote on suspending CGRC meetings until further notice. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. Thank you very much.
I think it is there listed in there.
So we don't have to keep one back.
I don't-
I think this is.